Welcome back, everyone. In this new What If Naruto series, we're diving into part 1 of What If Naruto was an immortal in the Shinobi world. Before we jump into the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below to share your thoughts.
Chapter 1. The Fall of Azure Heaven. The sky split open above the Azure cloud peaks, lightning without sound, wind without movement. And fire that did not burn. This was the final tribulation of a man who had lived beyond the limits of mortal understanding. Xu Tianran hovered silently in midair, his robe unstirred by the howling cosmic forces around him. His hair, once black and flowing, had turned pure silver, not from age, but from enlightenment. His eyes reflected not the world below, but the stars above, as if he already belonged to them. He had transcended death centuries ago. He had walked through hells of his own making, shaped the Tao with his will, and buried gods and demons alike under the weight of his cultivation. The world feared him. The heavens tested him. And now, they acknowledged him. The final thunderbolt struck. Xu Tianran did not flinch. Instead, he raised 2 fingers in a mudra and let the divine energy sink into his soul like water flowing into a basin. His body glowed with internal light, his meridians vibrating in perfect harmony, his Dancian blooming like a lotus in the void. Ascension, he whispered, at long last. But something went wrong. A tear opened behind him, not a crack in the sky, but in the fabric of existence itself. It pulsed like a heartbeat and shimmered with colors not meant for mortal eyes. Before he could react, the tribulation lightning bent toward the rift, curving unnaturally as if redirected. Then came the scream. Not from a beast, nor a man, but from the universe itself. Xu Tianran felt his consciousness being pulled forward through time, through space, through the threads of fate. He resisted, of course. His soul was fortified by 10,000 years of cultivation, his will tempered by 1,000 battles. But the force was not malicious, it was desperate, like a drowning child grabbing the nearest arm. And just like that, the immortal vanished from the world. When he awoke, it was to pain. The scent of wet leaves, the sharp tense of iron in the air, the dull ache of bones pushed too far. Xu Tianran groaned as he opened his eyes, finding himself lying beneath a tree. Blood dripped from a cut on his brow, real blood. Not the golden ichor of an immortal body, but red, warm, mortal blood. He sat up slowly. His surroundings were unfamiliar. A forest with trees too symmetrical, too evenly spaced. Birds chirped nearby, but even their songs sounded wrong. Distant voices echoed through the trees, foreign, harsh syllables spoken quickly. We saw the chakra surge. I'm telling you, it wasn't a summoning jutsu. Then what was it, idiot? No one's this deep in fire country. Xu Tianran tensed. Despite the pain, his instincts remained sharp. He forced himself to stand, swaying slightly. His internal energy not empty, severed, as if this world rejected his ki entirely. No matter, he had lived without power before. He could do it again. He reached into his sleeve, grasping the hilt of a fan-shaped blade, one of the few artifacts that had traveled with him, still intact, still warm with a trace of his former self. The immortal walked toward the voices with measured steps. From the foliage emerged 2 figures clad in dark armor and porcelain masks each, bearing a swirling leaf symbol on their forehead. Their chakra flared instantly.
Let's pause for a quick break. What if Naruto was transported into the world of the Justice League? Teaming up with heroes like Superman and Batman, Naruto faces new threats in a world of superpowers and tech, yet his heart longs for home. Can he return, or will he become Earth's next great hero? Don't miss this epic crossover. Like, subscribe, and watch the full story unfold.
Let's continue. Xu Tianran observed them with curiosity. He could see their energy flowing through their bodies, dense yet unfocused, like fire forced through pipes. One of them made a hand sign, lips moving quickly, ninpo binding chains. Ropes of light shot from the man's hands. Xu Tianran didn't move. He merely pivoted one foot, shifting his center of gravity, and lifted a single palm. The technique slammed into a wall of invisible force mid-hers key shield, fragile and fading, but enough. The chains disintegrated. The other ninja shouted, "He's resisting. Target is a hostile." The second man blurred forward with unnatural speed, kunai gleaming. Xu Tianran blinked. A second later, the man was on his knees, gasping. Xu had stepped into his guard and struck 5 acupoints on his chest, quick, precise taps with 2 fingers. No key control, Xu muttered, unimpressed. Just brute force shaped by thoughts. Crude, yet efficient. The first masked man froze, hesitating. Xu Tianran turned toward him, lowering his hand. "I do not wish to fight," he said slowly, speaking in near-perfect Japanese's comprehension, likely gifted by the cosmic shift that brought him here. "But I will not be bound." The man held up a ceiling tag in fear. But before he could act, 3 more ninja arrived faster, cloaked in aura. One leaped high, throwing a volley of Xu Tianran's foot drew a line in the dirt. The shuriken froze mid-air and dropped harmlessly. Repelled by a faint shimmering wall of intense swordless keyblade, a technique few had seen and lived. "I see," he murmured. "This world does not follow the Tao, but it has its own logic." The last thing he saw before his vision dimmed was a black andred mask, flashing before him, its owner slamming a precise strike into his neck. Darkness took him. When he awoke again, it was in a cell. The walls were carved stone, clean yet cold. Chakra seals glowed faintly in every corner. His wrists were bound not by rope, but by energy threads that hummed with pressure. Outside the cell sat an old man in ornate robes, a pipe smoldered in his mouth. His eyes held the weight of many wars and too much knowledge. "I am Hiruzen Sarutobi," the man said calmly. "Hokage of Konohagakure, and you, stranger, are a problem." Xu Tianran smiled faintly. "Then perhaps, Hokage," he said, "we may prove useful to each other." Chapter 2. A Prisoner Among Shinobi. Time passed differently in this world. Xu Tianran sat in the center of his cell, cross-legged, unmoving. He had not eaten, he had not slept. The chakra-infused seals lining the stone walls pulsed faintly, resonating with energies foreign to his cultivation senses. They were effective, he had to admit. Not absolute, but efficient enough to contain someone who had not yet adapted to this realm. It had been 3 days, though the concept of a day was almost comically mortal to him. Yet in this moment, he was truly mortal again. Not in body perhaps, but in vulnerability. The celestial pathways that once channeled his ki had become brittle threads, weakened by the laws of this new universe. His Dancian was not destroyed, but the cosmic link was broken. His golden core, dormant. He had begun to meditate, as best he could. To test the shape of the energy in this world. Chakra, they called it. It flowed like ki, but it did not breathe. It pulsed. It followed pattern and formula. It was rigid, yet within its structure, he felt potential, unrefined, childlike, and volatile. The door creaked. Sarutobi entered again, this time alone. No ANBU guards. No surveillance tags. He stood in silence, watching. The ancient man turned prisoner with the calm, unreadable gaze of someone used to balancing danger and duty on a knife's edge. "You've eaten nothing," Sarutobi said at last. ... "I do not require sustenance," Xu replied. "Even the strongest shinobi need food." "I am no shinobi," Sarutobi chuckled, smoke drifting from his pipe like mist. "No, you're not. That much is clear." He paced slowly in front of the cell. "You're not from any known land. Your language patterns are archaic, yet you speak perfectly. Your fighting style. I've never seen techniques like those. And chakra doesn't flow through you the way it should." Xu said nothing. "Who are you, truly?" The immortal opened his eyes. There was no malice in them, only stillness like deep water reflecting the moon. My name is Xu Tianran. I was born in a world beyond your comprehension, a realm where mortals strive for thousands of years to touch divinity. I succeeded. Sarutobi took another puff, unfazed. You say that as though divinity is a destination. It is a state, a clarity of self. Power is only a consequence. Yet, you were brought here, the Hokage said softly. Forcefully, I presume. I do not know. For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed Su's features. It was not by my own will. I was at the peak, ready to leave that world behind. And then, he trailed off. Sarutobi looked down, thoughtful. Tell me, can you kill a tailed beast? Xu looked at him, not with arrogance, but with curiosity. I do not know what that is. Sarutobi exhaled slowly. Then perhaps we have much to learn from each other. Later that night, Xu Tianran was escorted, shackled still, through a corridor lit by flickering torches. ANBU surrounded him silent, masked, efficient. They led him not to a court or a cell, but a training field, empty, warded, sealed off from the rest of the village. Waiting at the far end was a boy, no older than 15, pale, sharp eyes, a mask hanging from his belt. Hatak Kakashi, Sarutobi said. One of our finest. He will test your claims. Xu raised a brow. Test my claims. Prove to us that you are not a threat. Or, if you are, that you can be contained. Kakashi stepped forward and gave a short bow. I've been instructed not to kill you. I'll try to follow that. Xu smiled thinly. Your confidence is commendable. They stood still for a moment opposite ends of the field. Wind blew gently between them, rustling leaves. Chakra filled the air like a storm cloud. Then Kakashi vanished. A blur of motion, instantaneous. Xu's eyes tracked him not with sight, but intuition. The boy's feet barely touched the ground as he struck from above, kunai flashing downward toward Xu's shoulder. Xu stepped aside, not hurriedly, not forcefully. Just a pivot, smooth and efficient. The blade passed an inch from his robe. He lifted a finger and tapped Kakashi's wrist. The boy flipped backward immediately, avoiding the full pressure point impact, but his wrist went limp for a moment. Impressive, Xu said, genuine. Speed cultivated with purpose. Kakashi didn't answer. He drew a dozen shuriken and launched them in a perfect arc. With a snap of his fingers, Xu's inner ki responded not as power, but as will. The air shimmered. Every shuriken stopped mid-air and dropped to the ground. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow. Xu looked at Kakashi. Do you understand what just happened? The boy shook his head. Gengetsu? No, I simply refused your reality. After the duel, back in the cell again, Xu felt something stir, not his power, his memory, of a time long ago when he was a boy on the slopes of Mount Qingshuan, cold, alone, practicing hand seals of his own drawn from a manual written by a madman. Then again, all sages were mad. Eventually, this world was not his. Its laws were flawed. But there was beauty in its struggle. He had seen the look in that boy's eyes, Kakashi eyes, that held pain, but also fire. He had seen it before, in countless disciples who had sought his wisdom only to die long before reaching enlightenment. Xu Tianran leaned back and closed his eyes. There was still a long path ahead. But perhaps, this was the trial he had been meant to face. Let's pause for a moment. What if Naruto was sent back in time? Trapped in a past filled with danger and mystery, he holds knowledge of what's to come. Can he change history and protect those he loves, or will fate rewrite his own story? Don't miss this time-twisting journey. Like, subscribe, and dive into the legend. Let's continue. Chapter 3. The Blade Without Chakra. The skies over Konoha wore a blanket of mist that morning, veiling the sun in a soft gray hue. Streets bustled with vendors and shinobi alike, but within the Hokage's tower, the mood was tense. A decision had been made. Xu Tianran stood at the village gate, no longer in chains. His robe, refitted by curious Konoha tailors, still bore the elegant folds of a cultivator's attire, though now made from local material. His blade, the Void Crescent fan, remained at his side. The weapon hadn't drawn blood since he arrived, but that could change today. Hirusen Sarutobi stood beside him, arms crossed behind his back. You will accompany 2 of our rising shinobi on a mission to patrol the border. Low risk, but valuable insight. It will test whether you can function as one of us. Xu didn't reply immediately. He gazed up at the sky. And if I cannot, then you will return to that cell, or worse.
A simple threat, but one backed by a village of thousands. The gate opened. From the far road came 2 figures, one bright, one brooding. My guy, energetic even in his youth, practically bounced as he approached. His wild black hair and massive eyebrows framed a face filled with reckless optimism. Beside him walked a much smaller boy, white-haired and calm-eyed, Hatak Kakashknau, wearing a full mask and Konoha forehead protector, tilted slightly to the side.
Xu gave a shallow nod. Familiar eyes. Kakashi nodded back without a word. Guy, on the other hand, rushed forward. So you're the super ancient wandering immortal. Wow, Kakashi told me you blocked his kunai with your aura. Can you teach me that, please? Let's be training rivals forever. Xu raised an eyebrow. You are loud. Yes, I am. Guy beamed, and honest. That's rare. They set off. In the wilderness, their path took them through a quiet forest bordering the river country. Their mission: observe a missing Nin convoy last seen 2 days ago. Engage only if necessary. Guy filled the air with chatter. Kakashi said almost nothing. Xu mostly walked in silence, observing the terrain, the chakra flows, and his own body. He could feel it, now chakra, crude, wild energy trying to bend to human will. It was not ki. It lacked elegance, but it was responsive, malleable, and in his hands, dangerous. He held up a palm and focused. Air trembled around his fingers. He directed the chakra not through hand seals, but through intent, the method of his old world. It resisted, then flowed. A leaf drifted toward him from above. With a whisper of will, it stopped mid-air, turned, and burned to ash in a silent flash. Guy clapped. What? Did you just burn that leaf with your mind? No, Xu replied. With precision, the ambush. By the second evening, they found it. A trail of corpses led through a clearing. 5 rogue shinobi, all killed within minutes of one another. Kakashi examined the wounds. Efficient, precise. One of them was alive long enough to fight back. Guy scowled. Bandits. No, Kakashi said. These were professionals. Killed by someone with blade work sharper than steel. A rustle. Xu raised a hand just as a senbun dart flew from the trees. Clink. He deflected it with his fingernail. For enemies, he said. 2 above, 1 behind, 1 in front. The moment he spoke, masked figures dropped from the trees. Rogue shinobi, dressed in worn cloaks and carrying an eerie mark on their foreheads. A jagged moon. Guy burst forward, fists glowing. Youth will prevail. Kakashi vanished in a blur. Xu stood still. One enemy lunged toward him, twin daggers coated with poison. The man moved quickly, chakra coursing through his limbs. Fast by shinobi standards, Xu didn't draw his blade. Instead, he stepped forward, then sideways, then pivoted. The rogue's arm extended, blade flashing toward Xu's ribs, but he struck empty air. Xu had vanished. Weightless step, a movement technique from the Cloudlight Scrolls. No chakra, just pure footwork and breath. The rogue didn't even see the palm strike. He only felt his ribs shatter, his lungs collapse, and darkness wrap around his mind. The second rogue came from behind. Xu spun and snapped his fingers. Crack. Air pressure folded. The man was hurled backward, bones snapping as if struck by a giant's hand. Guy paused mid-fight, stunned. Was that taijutsu? No, Xu replied, walking calmly through the clearing. That was control. Aftermath, the battle ended quickly. All enemies incapacitated. None killed at Xu's request. As they rested by the fire that night, Kakashi finally spoke. You don't need jutsu. Xu sat across from him, feeding a small flame with dried leaves. You rely too much on tricks, on illusions, on tools. In my world, you fight with your soul, or not at all. But we're shinobi, and I was once a cultivator, Xu said. Now, I am something else. Guy was already snoring loudly. Kakashi looked at the sky. If chakra and ki are different, what are you really trying to do? Xu looked up to his eyes, old as stone, seemed to glow faintly. I am trying to understand, he said. This world, its people, its energy. If I cannot ascend back to the stars, then perhaps I must learn to walk among mortals once again. He reached into his sleeve and drew the void crescent fan. Kakashi tensed. Xu smiled faintly. Relax. I merely wished to show you something. He flicked the fan open. Moonlight reflected on its silver surface. He moved. Air itself split a vacuum line carved into the trees behind them. Not with chakra, but with pressure, precision, and will. Kakashi stared in silence. Xu closed the fan. Remember this, he said. Even a blade without chakra can still cut the heavens.
To be continued. If you enjoyed this What If episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a twist in the story. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or ideas for the next scenario.